Coming up on this edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show, I'm Tyler Jones, and I'm going to tell you why the real MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, has stood up.
I'm Rylan Stiles. Let's talk about J-Dub. A lot of encouraging signs so far in his return.
I'm Derek Parker. We're going to take a look at the Thunder's NBA draft outlook.
This is Locked On's Thunder Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Thunder talk gets real. No filters, no fluff, just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game, the way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Thunder Squad Show starts now.
What's good, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones, Rylan Stiles, Derek Parker here with you. Jeremy Lamb out this show. He'll be back on Thursday. Appreciate y'all joining us. Plenty to talk about. We'll talk Shai in a moment. A big night for him last night in the overtime victory against the Detroit Pistons. J-Dub had the night off last night, but he did show some encouraging signs on Sunday against the New York Knicks. We'll discuss that. Also, could we see more Aaron Wiggins here soon? And the NBA draft getting closer. Final Four this weekend in Indianapolis. We'll take a look at the Thunder's draft outlook and their position when it comes to picks and also potential draft targets as well coming up in the final segment of today's show. Guys, let's begin with the reigning MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Last night, an outstanding performance, 47 points in 41 minutes, going 12 of 19 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range. Also had 5 rebounds and 3 assists to go along with it. Hit some big shots down the stretch. You also had where the game could have ended in regulation had they not called him for the offensive foul of a little push-off there at the end. But nonetheless, a big night for him as he made his case known once again for why he deserves to be the MVP with an MVP-level performance. Rylan, just another outstanding showing from SGA last night.
Yeah, it was a great showing on the court for this guy who carried this team for 48 minutes plus overtime, and especially in the clutch. Once again, showing up when it mattered the most. He checked back in the fourth quarter, immediately goes out there and scores 10 straight points, 11 straight points in this one. And right after, he had 10 straight points on Monday's clutch time stretch against Detroit and then against New York on Sunday. And SGA, I mean, he's the only guy on the floor yesterday who could score, and he still shot 63% from the floor. You just could not stop him, even though you knew where the ball was going to end up and where the hopes of this Thunder team rested. He got to the free throw line for 25 free throw attempts, but he still ends up shooting 19 shots from the floor, which just shows you the volume and the amount of usage that he had to endure for 41 minutes to get this team a win. And he did it, a win that they had to have, a win that they need to keep pace for the 1 seed in the Western Conference. He was incredible, 21 points in the fourth quarter and overtime combined. In overtime, Kaysen had a bucket down low in the dunker spot. Caruso hit a 3. 5 points not scored by Shai in that overtime period, and the Thunder get the win over Detroit. Obviously, Detroit resting most of their guys. If you've heard of them, they were out besides Ron Holland, Jenkins, and Thompson. But the Thunder were able to still get that win because Shai is incredible, and he can get shots off in a phone booth. I mean, he was surrounded, he was harassed, he was harmed all throughout the night. It didn't matter. He stayed efficient. He kept scoring for 47 points and continues to make his MVP case on the court.
Derek, as Rylan mentions, the MVP case on the court. We've seen Victor Wembanyama, among others, try to publicly advocate for their case to be the MVP. SGA asked about it last night. You guys were there. He's not there to toot his own horn. Mark Daigneault says that, hey, we'll let his play on the court speak for itself. And that play is speaking loud and clear of why this is his to lose.
Yeah, Shai's never been a guy that, is going to go to the podium. I respect Victor Wembanyama. I think it's good for the game for him to advocate for his own MVP case, but that's never been Shai. And I had an out-of-body experience in the presser last night of hearing Shai say, I let my game speak for itself. I could already see, the Twitter account saying it's a shot at Wembanyama. It wasn't. He said this multiple times. This is just who Shai is. And he really does let his game speak for itself. He's not, the flashiest guy in the pressers. He's maybe the clothes are, he might have the best fit, but he's always going to let his game speak for itself. And I think it certainly has. I mean, this guy is 11 for 11 in the fourth quarter and overtime since March 17th. He has literally not missed a shot, 42 points. He's as clutch as it gets, his clutch time numbers. I mean, he is like the runaway favorite for clutch player of the year. He's played more minutes than Wembanyama. He's, better on defense than Luka and Jokic. I think he's the common denominator in all of these different MVP cases. And when you look at it holistically, to me, it still feels like Shai. I know that, others have had phenomenal seasons. I think we're seeing one of the best four-man races we've ever seen. But Shai, again, is the common denominator here, and he has just been absolutely spectacular. There's no doubt that the Thunder don't go and win a handful of games in March if he doesn't go into attack mode and get hot down the stretch. We've seen it now. He scored 10 straight points against Detroit and, 11 straight against whoever else. He has just been on a mission through March, and it's worked out for Oklahoma City.
Rylan, people will point to that, you barely beat the Detroit Pistons without Cade Cunningham. Shai went to the free throw line, 24, 25 plus times last night. But what I would say is that, hey, he didn't have J-Dub there, didn't have iHeart there, still found a way to win, and he was coming off a back-to-back. You could hate, doubt all you want, but you can't take away from that performance last night.
Yeah, I think that you look at this Thunder team, and obviously that they were only missing the two guys, but those are two pretty important guys. Your number 2 scorer in J-Dub, and iHeart, he was missed in every facet. I mean, the reason Detroit was able to keep it close and get it to overtime is their dominance on the glass, is the fact that despite their poor shooting, they outclassed the Thunder in shot attempts yesterday, and that led to second chance points. And that led to this Thunder defense, who, despite holding Detroit to 42% shooting, still had a nip and tuck game against Detroit due to the fact that Detroit had 6 more threes than OKC. They had 16 more shot attempts. They had 9 more offensive rebounds. iHeart cleans a lot of that up on that end, plus the creation that he has offensively to get guys like Joe, McCain, AJ, these guys going as scorers because of his passing, because of his screen setting ability to create separation for these players. And they missed that very, very much against Detroit. So they were missing top options. They had their backs against the wall. They got to a point where they were down 7 with under 4 minutes to play. And you're thinking, okay, this is the danger zone. They have 1 game of wiggle room remaining the rest of the year, and they just blew that game on a night where Detroit's not playing their rotation. And yet Shai salvaged the game like MVPs do. And that was really the difference last night. The Thunder had a guy they could turn to get a bucket at will. Detroit did not due to their injury report, and the Thunder got the win because of Shai. And this win is completely on SGA, and it might have saved the season in the sense of their playoff outlook as the 1 seed.
Yeah, it was that big of a deal for him to pull through for this Thunder team last night and deliver that performance. And you look at what SGA is doing, Derek. I mean, we've harped on this how many times, but I don't think it can be reiterated enough. The consistency and the clutch moments too of when they need him to come through, he delivers time and time again. And we've seen it this season when the stakes are high, when the moment is big, it's not too big for him.
Yeah, he's cool as a cucumber, man. I mean, I tweeted it out, but they go down 7. There's a few minutes left to play, and it really feels like the game is slipping away from Oklahoma City. And then they just sit up in their chair, Shai especially, and he just goes to work. The defense got stops, and he just gets bucket after bucket. He is so consistent. I thought Detroit last night played pretty good defense at the point of attack. I thought Azar Thompson was predictably very good. Ron Holland fouled a lot, as did Thompson, but I thought they made it tough on Shai, and it didn't matter. I mean, he gets into the mid-range, he hits threes, he can pass. Even when he had it going scoring-wise, 47 points, he kicked out to Caruso for chances there, and then in the postgame talked about how Caruso's proven, so he's just going to make the right play. Again, cool as a cucumber. There's no moment too big for him. He said it was just winning time. That's what it comes down to. He moved right on from the push-off and into overtime and was spectacular there as well. So you're right, Tyler. It can't be reiterated enough. What we're witnessing is special, regardless of what awards follow, of what accolades come with this season. We're seeing a historically great guard season, especially in scoring the ball, and I'm just happy to witness it.
Yeah, we're all a witness of something amazing happening. Bring back that ad campaign when amazing happens in the NBA. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, ladies and gentlemen. Shai right now, the way that he's played for Oklahoma City, I want to go over just some numbers of what we've seen as of late here for the Oklahoma City guard. 47 against Detroit, 30 against New York. Even in that loss against Boston last week, 33 points. You know, I go down the line. One of the things that I take away, Rylan, is that this guy is playing at a high level, and some of his best games are against some of these better opponents when they need to play at a high level, that he rises to the occasion.
Yeah, he does rise to the moment and matches the moment, whether that is setting up his teammates and kind of bending the defense with his scoring gravity, given the fact that they're going to give him so much attention and it can open up wide open looks, whether it be from beyond the arc or whether it be inside. He's able to do that as a more advanced playmaker now than he was previously. I know that the Thunder have been struggling from beyond the arc percentage-wise, but since the All-Star break, they've generated the most open looks from three-point land, and it's largely due to Shai and due to the coverages he's seeing. They've got to start hitting those shots, but Shai's making the right play, and his potential assists continue to be off the charts this entire season. And then you look at his scoring ability. Again, you cannot stress enough how much that everyone in the building knew that Shai was the only guy who could score yesterday, and he still put the ball in the hoop, and he still was able to get it done against some really talented defenders. I mean, I look at this game, and it's going to sound a bit strange if you didn't watch it and you just saw the box score that, like, whoa, Shai had 47 points, and he shot 63% from the floor. Like, he just had his way with Detroit. In reality, you watch that game, almost every bucket that Shai had yesterday was a tip-your-cap moment where Ron Holland, Thompson, whomsoever was defending Shai, you look at it and say, that's great defense, but better offense. Like, they did everything right, and it still just did not matter. Yes, they fouled a lot because Shai is just an incredible player and forced them into some foul issues because you have to be so aggressive with him. And then you look at how his games progressed. I mean, you go back to that game against New York where he had this happen, where he's able now to take a high ball screen and dribble into a three if you're going to play off of him, to try to gear up for the mid-range, which of course the mid-range is Shai's bread and butter. So he's able to now read and react to defenses, whether it be from the pass, whether it be as a three-level scorer, and it takes him to a new place. But especially in big games like this, he has a knack for having the moment. You remember that stretch he had while he was pursuing Wilt's record and breaking it to set his own, whenever he just hit 3 game winners in a row, because that's just the kind of guy he was. He almost had one against Detroit, but it was wiped off due to a push-off, which the last 2-minute report came out today and confirmed that was the right call. I agree. And then he does it in overtime. After having his moment taken away, he makes another one, but by being in overtime and being the best player on the floor and getting this Thunder win.
Derek, a lot of people like to point to the free throw shooting, that SGA goes to the line a lot. And last night, I'll say, was no exception, with the 25 free throw attempts, going 21 or 25 from the line. But what I think is, I would say, misguided or incorrect about this is this idea that SGA is baiting himself into fouls, or that he's, getting, the whistle his direction. Like, this is a guy that drives to the lane and draws contact, and he's very good at it. I don't think that is an indictment on him, or think that he's playing a lazy game of some sorts by any stretch. I think that's all earned, personally.
Yeah, I mean, he is a true master of the craft, and people can take that however they want, but it's going to continue to happen. Like, he is an expert foul drawer. I don't think that's a bad thing. And when you look at, the supercut that's flying around out there of the Pistons game, like, there's maybe 1 or 2 that you could argue were kind of iffy. The rest are fouls. I mean, the Pistons last night called a challenge on the 3-point shot where Shai was fouled. They review it. It was a foul. He shoots 3 free throws. The rest of the game, they're fouling Shai to get him to the line, and they're kind of playing the free throw game there at the end. A lot of this just adds up over the course of the game. He still hasn't taken the most free throws attempted in the NBA this season. Like, he's just this good. And I think, if they want to let him get into the jumpers and take the threes, then and not foul as much, he's going to make those too. If you do want to take those things away, you probably have to foul him to take those things away. So it's overblown nationally, but it just comes with the territory as well. Like, Shai gets it, the Thunder get it. I don't think fans should get up in arms about it. Like, it's just how it's going to be. He's an expert level player. He is, really, really good at drawing fouls. And is that everybody's favorite thing to watch? No, but is Shai going to continue to play within the confines of the rules and earn his team points in that way? Of course. And you can't blame him for that no matter where you stand.
100%. More to come on the Oklahoma City Thunder squad show. J-Dub, although he sat out last night, he did show some encouraging signs against the New York Knicks. We'll discuss that. Also, could we see more of Aaron Wiggins here soon as we near the playoff stretch? We'll talk all about that and more as we roll along here on this Tuesday Oklahoma City Thunder squad show. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. And my pick goes to Cotton Candy, a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla, the sweet side of tasty caffeine, throwback flavor with a boost, light, airy candy profile, nostalgic carnival-style taste, pure sweetness from start to finish, sweet tooth fix without any sugar guilt. 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. 5-hour energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. I'd love to see if they can find a way to get a chocolate flavor involved. And a lot of these flavors are only available for a limited time, folks. So maybe take advantage of it now while you still have a chance. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. We continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder squad show. Derek Parker, Rylan Stiles, Tyler Jones back here with you now. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Thank you for making the Locked On Thunder podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the number one sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. Access to an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Thunder podcast, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show, special all-access episodes of the Locked On Thunder podcast, one-on-one texting with Rylan. Here's what you need to do, folks. Go to lockedonthunder.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Let's continue on now and talk about J-Dub. Although he didn't play last night, we did see him on Sunday against the New York Knicks, and he had a very good performance. 29 minutes, he scored 22 points, 7 of 11 from the field, 1 for 1 from three-point range, had a rebound and 2 assists to go along with it. Rylan, you wrote a good piece on the SI Thunder side a couple days ago about this. Very promising showing from J-Dub of what was a very efficient night for him there against New York.
Yeah, I think that the New York game was his best game since he's been back, but you can see it building to that point. Even the game against Boston, where you look at the box score and it's just dreadful, and it's got to be better than that from your number 2 option and number 3 option from Chet. But even in that game, like I thought that there were encouraging signs in the sense of his mobility and athleticism. And those were the 2 biggest question marks for me with J-Dub coming back from a second hamstring strain, because what went wrong against Boston was the touch and the feel and his rhythm as a shooter. And he explained that after the game that his wrist feels better than it's felt since the initial injury, like the range of motion, the grip strength, the things that were ailing him early on this year are no longer. And so to me, that just suggests he needs the timing right. He needs to get back into a rhythm, and they have time to do that over the next 3+ weeks here as the playoffs are around the corner. But if he was laboring physically, that'd be a big concern. The good news is he's not. He's explosive when he's cutting. He's generating good looks and getting to his spots in the mid-range. He's bullying his way to the rim. He just lived in the paint. He got to the free throw line a ton, and that's been an area where he's really struggled at through his NBA career. For as great as he's been, all NBA, all defensive, all-star last year, scored 40 points in the finals. The one thing that hasn't came around for him throughout his career so far is the ability to get to the line for how much that he drives. And he's really learned now how to best utilize his size, his strength, and his explosiveness when getting to the rim, playing with force and forcing the contact, forcing the whistle, and getting to the free throw line. These are things that can unlock a new dynamic for J-Dub individually, which of course trickles out to the whole team and makes the team better when he can do those things. So the fact that he's been able to just hop right back into this lineup and be so dynamic as a cutter, be so dynamic, mobility-wise and athletically, that is what gives you encouragement that he's going to be all right in the playoffs and he's going to be where he needs to be to try to get this team a second straight championship.
DP, what was your thoughts on what we saw from J-Dub the other night?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Rylan said. I think the explosiveness and the mobility look really, really good as it's looked all season. I think it's on par with some of the best moments of his career. Ken's talking about it in the comments, but there was that play, where he had 4 Knicks around him and he gets out in the open floor and he dusts all of them and he goes and gets the layup. Like, he looks really, really good in that regard. And I think that's a huge, huge part of it. His aggression, I talk about it all the time, but he is just one of the best energy givers. I thought that, that Knicks game was one that was a little up and down in terms of the momentum. And there were times where Dub just kind of took it by the reins and said, I'm going to bring the energy. I'm going to, give the offense. He got to the line. He hit some big shots. So he's so massive in that regard, especially in the sense that he can just do things that some others can't in terms of getting into the mid-range. And he's just so big and athletic and he can defend multiple positions. So such a key cog in this Thunder rotation. The only thing I'm still looking at is the 3-point volume, but he shot 1 3, he hit it. It was wide open. It looked really crystal clear. So I think as long as he solves that in this last little stretch of runway, I think we're looking at, the return of Jalen Williams in his entirety, which is great news for this Thunder team because I say it all the time, but there's just no version of this team that is at their best without J-Dub also at his best. So nice return for Jalen Williams.
And Rylan, they seem to be taking it easy with J-Dub. Didn't play him last night. We saw, of course, the minutes restriction and sorts. This seems to be gradual, that the Thunder are being very, very patient here with this full-on ramp up with J-Dub.
Yeah, and they're going to have to be. I mean, this was their penultimate back-to-back. They have one more remaining next week in LA, but they're going to have to be cautious with him because you're going to look at this last stretch of the regular season, then you're going to get the week off for the play-in, but then you need him every single game. The chances of the Thunder repeating and being the first team to go back-to-back since the 2018 Golden State Warriors, it does hinge on health, and it does hinge on J-Dub, as well as Isaiah Hartenstein, and 2 guys who have dealt with a lot of lower body issues this season. You've got to be cautious, and I know that nobody wants to hear it. I know that everyone's gunning for that 1 seed. The reality is, even if they were to blow that game yesterday against Detroit, they're still better served to be cautious with these 2 guys and have them healthy in the postseason than have the 1 seed push them too far and not have those 2 guys in the playoffs. Like, that's the most important thing. No matter the seeding, no matter if the game's played in Oklahoma City or in San Antonio or on the moon, they need J-Dub and iHeart to play and be healthy. So you've got to do whatever it takes to make sure you get to the finish line with these players. And so you have to be cautious on the minute restriction, a bit of a soft cap, as Mark would put it. You have to be cautious on the back-to-backs. And you're going to have also some games where, yes, you have a massive game against the Lakers. It'll probably take a 40-minute effort from a lot of these star players from Oklahoma City to get that win against the surging Lakers, but you still play the Jazz on Sunday. That should be a pretty light game. Even if these guys suit up, they shouldn't be needed a whole lot. I think that last game of the year against the Suns, that the Suns will already have had their play-in positioning solidified. I don't think that they're going to go for that game, Phoenix, in the last day of the year, considering they've got to turn around and play on that Tuesday in the play-in. So I think that if you're the Thunder, you're going to be cautious the rest of the way because the end goal is still the postseason. The end goal is still a title, and you need these guys healthy to do that.
Derek, when you talk about J-Dub at full strength, when there's no restrictions on him at all, what does he change to this Oklahoma City Thunder team? What does he add here?
He has the ability to change everything. I mean, he is a guy that can play guard. He can score on the ball. He can play, as a big 2, and he can score off the ball. He can play on the wing. He can guard wings. He can guard bigs. He can guard, power forwards. He is just so versatile across the board on both ends. He can function in the pick and roll. He can set screens. He can pass and process the game at a rapid rate. He's just like a chameleon in terms of this Thunder team. They can go big with him, and they can play both Chet, iHeart, and Dub and have him essentially play the 3. They can play him at the small ball 5 and go small and run the floor. Like, He is just a game-changing player. Every single team in the NBA wishes they had a guy like Jalen Williams with long arms and scoring feel and defensive feel. I mean, this is a guy that is all defense. He's a one-time all-star. He just understands the game at an elite level, and he just changes everything about this team. And again, there's no version of this Thunder team where, they're at their best without Jalen Williams. He is the chameleon, the focal point, one of the biggest glue guys, and the box score kind of reflects that he's bigger than a glue guy, but he also does the glue guy stuff. Like, he is in the trenches, diving on the floor and getting deflections and steals and just doing all these different things. So he is just a game-changing player front to back.
Rylan, for this Oklahoma City Thunder team with J-Dub in the fold, who takes a back seat with him getting more minutes and more involved?
Yeah, I think that the players won't necessarily see their role reduced to literally 0 minutes, but you're going to see a scenario where he's going to soak up the majority of the minutes, and you need him on the floor for the most part. So a guy like even Isaiah Joe, Jared McCain, those guys, the Cason Wallace and Lou Dort, you saw last night, Lou Dort, even as a starter, even without J-Dub and Ihart playing, he plays under 20 minutes in an overtime game. Like that is a signal right there of who you're going to see these minutes kind of detract from moving forward whenever they don't have it. And it's going to be a case-by-case basis. Like, Mark will go into every game pretty fresh and trusting pretty much everybody on this roster. And then, if shots are falling or not falling for guys, those are the guys that'll lose minutes on a given night. I don't think that Wiggins will necessarily play a part in this rotation in the postseason in a massive way, but you're going to be able to find minutes for J-Dub, Chet, SGA, Ihart pretty easily, given what's going to be required to win a championship, given what's going to be required of the matchups that they're going to play. You look at the bracket, these strengths that these four guys have, the core four have, they pay dividends against everybody, but especially the styles that you're going to face off with in the postseason.
We are live here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Rylan Stiles, Derek Parker, Tyler Jones here with you on this Tuesday afternoon. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. When we talk about the fit of J-Dub, one of the big questions becomes Chet Holmgren as well. And this has been a big year for Chet. But Derek, like, these two, they like each other a lot. They play together well. We've seen in the past when they've come back from one of the two being out that maybe it's taken a minute, but I think that they've been around each other long enough that they'll be fine to make this work to be able to be on the same page here.
Yeah, this is a team that has a lot of IQ. I asked both of these guys the other night, like, what is going through your mind whenever different players come on the floor and there's all these different combinations of lineups, and both Chet and Dub basically reiterated that, this is a high IQ team. Mark Daigneault does a great job of keeping like pretty fluid lineups on the court and guys that like to play together. And I think both Chet and J-Dub fit into that. They're a duo that has had a lot of chemistry in the past. And then when you factor in the fact that Shai is just kind of a high floor, like offensive engine, regardless of who's on the floor, then you can kind of stagger Chet Holmgren and Jaylen Williams in that second unit, and they can be a really, really potent offensive and defensive duo. So I would imagine you still see a decent amount of that in the postseason. Obviously, the lineups haven't been there in totality this season. There's been a lot of missed time, but I think these are two really smart players who do at least have a history of having, run this offense together, whether it's the pick and roll or each of them creating on their own and playing off one another. There's a lot of history there. And I think that they'll snap back into it pretty quickly, and it'll be a usable thing in the postseason.
Yeah, certainly so. It'll be a big deal. And Rylan, if I looked at guys that learned from their postseason experience last year, I think J-Dub might be the biggest one you could point to. There were times he did not play well last year in the playoffs. And then when he needed to step up, he got out of the slump. He figured it out. And I would think that going forward from here, that he's probably learned a lot from what he went through last year.
Yeah, I would agree with that, considering that you saw last season. I mean, J-Dub has always been kind of a victim of overreaction, whether he's playing fantastic or playing poorly. People go to the extremes with him on their kind of proclamations about his game, and it was never lower than it was in Game 6 in Denver. That was a dud of a game. It was, I think, his worst game he's ever played for Oklahoma City. And then you head to OKC with Game 7 and your season on the line going up against Jokic and the Nuggets, and you're thinking, okay, this team might get upset again in round number 2, and he turns it around and he has a fantastic outing, and that propels him into the rest of his postseason venture here. Now, then we later found out that he was dealing with torn ligaments in his wrist while being a guy who went from the worst game he's ever played for Oklahoma City was Game 6 in Denver in the second round. And then from that point forward, he put himself in conversations where there was legitimate whispers of, should J-Dub win NBA Finals MVP? Like, should J-Dub get some votes here for Western Conference Finals MVP? Like, there were legitimate whispers for good reason because he was that great in the playoffs. He learned on the fly. He got on the job training as the number 2 scoring option, as a guy who the whole regular season we spent wondering, yeah, this team's good, but man, you got to get experience. Man, you've got to learn the lessons. Can J-Dub be ready right now to be the number 2 scoring option? That was what we spent the entire season last year talking about. And that Game 6 in Denver heightened that talk to a fever pitch, and he turned it around right there. You can tell that he learned and implemented lessons from that game moving forward. He was never more physical. He was never more forceful offensively than he was from Game 7 against Denver through that championship in his whole NBA career and in his basketball life. He learned that on the fly, and now you get to take that knowledge into an entire playoff run. It's going to be a lot of fun to see him on the big stage again.
Halfway home here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. In a moment, let's talk Aaron Wiggins. Should we see more of him going forward as the Thunder gear up for their playoff run? Also, how's the NBA draft outlook look like right now when it comes to their potential picks and then also potential draft targets? We'll talk about that in our final segment. Stay with us here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing. The one position you still have to fill, still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes, less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Derek Parker, Rylan Stiles, Tyler Jones back here with you now. Let's talk Aaron Wiggins. Last night in 17 minutes, pretty solid outing with 10 points, going 4 of 8 from the field, 2 of 5 from three-point range. Also had 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. But his minutes are kind of all over the place. Sometimes he's not playing at all. Other times we see 17, 11, 21 minutes. You got games like Brooklyn where he played 34. It's been kind of all over the place with Aaron Wiggins. Derek, I'll start with you. What do you think? Should Oklahoma City be playing Aaron Wiggins more down the stretch?
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question here just because of the talent and depth that this team has. I thought they rightfully stuck with Aaron Wiggins last night. You know, he didn't play at all against New York or Boston. That was probably also the right decision. Aaron Wiggins, to me right now, you know, he's been in a little bit of a lull. Mark Daigneault has said it before, but we have so much sample of Aaron Wiggins being a good basketball player. There's no doubt in my mind that he will eventually return to that. But also at this stage for the Thunder, you're competing for a championship, and you really just don't have the leash right now to give a guy who's struggling to shoot and defend and these things. So to me, it's kind of a thing where you throw him in, you evaluate how he's doing in the first few minutes, and then if things are going well, like it was against Detroit last night, then he's earned the right to stay on the floor. And especially given his history with the Thunder, he has been a positive basketball player, even dating back to last year's postseason. But if you throw him out there on the floor and, he misses some shots and the defense isn't up to par, then he's probably a player who's going to see his minutes dwindle a little bit this postseason. And I think, again, given where the Thunder are at, that's probably a pretty fair assessment. Like, they are just the most talented team in the league roster-wise. They have the most depth. Like, they have the most combinations of all of these different highly impactful players that, if you're not up to par on both ends, then you're just probably not going to see the floor. And I certainly think that Aaron Wiggins is capable of playing winning basketball as early as tomorrow, like we saw it last night. But there's going to be nights too where others kind of get called.
Rylan, to Derek's point, it's kind of up to Aaron Wiggins, right? If he steps up, he'll be rewarded.
Yeah, Derek, we're singing out of the same hymn, though. I think that when you look at this team,
Happy Easter.
Yeah, Happy Easter. I think that when you look at this team, they're just too talented. Whenever you look at Wiggins' impact, he's going to be on a very short leash. And again, Mark will go into the postseason fresh. He'll give everybody a chance. And Wiggins had big moments last year in the playoffs, especially in that Memphis series. And he's a player that I think is going to be really hard to justify playing unless he forces the issue, because you look at him, his defense is not where it needs to be. He's improved on that end of the floor, but it's not postseason caliber. His offense has not been where it needs to be even a plus offensive player for the last month and a half or so. And at that point, if he's not a positive offensive player and he's also not a positive defensive player, well, then the trade-offs just aren't there to play him versus a guy like McCain, who isn't a plus defensive player, especially in a playoff setting, but at least he provides offense. At least he provides a guy who you can trust when you kick it out to him as a catch-and-shoot shooter. He can also wiggle his way into the mid-range and score, and you feel a little bit more confident in him. Isaiah Joe has been fantastic as well in those two regards, and he's a much improved defender from where he was, and he's a defender now that you could see be an average or neutral defender in a postseason setting because he's improved that greatly. So I think that when you look at Wiggins, he's just going to have to force the issue and really do a lot of damage in a short amount of time with a short leash around him. And that's hard to do for a rhythm player. I mean, this is a guy that last year was their third best shot creator. And this year he's not. This year he's not been that. He's not been able to create for himself and score the basketball. And that's really harming his minutes. It's really harming his rotational standard. You look at even last night, if this team was fully healthy, does he get to play? The last night, the justification is largely due to the fact that you had to change up Shai's rotation on the second night of a back-to-back. And you needed somebody who has prior scoring history, and that's Wiggins. And to Wiggins' credit, he had his best game in a long time in this game on both ends of the floor, and that's good for him. But he's running out of time here, like sand through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives running through the rest of the regular season, and he's running out of time to prove it. And I don't know how many more matchups he's going to get the opportunity to. I'd be a little bit eyebrow-raising surprised if Wiggins is in the rotation on Thursday against the Lakers, considering this team will be at full complement of their rotation. So that's another big opportunity that if he does get into that game, he'll only have a little bit of time. And as a rhythm player, it's going to be hard for him to break out of it. But if he wants to play in the playoffs, he's going to have to do it. I don't see a pathway to substantial playoff minutes for Wiggins.
Well, and Derek, to what Rylan's saying here, it's, is Aaron Wiggins playing worse than what he did last year? Yes. But like the other guys have stepped up, where you look at Jared McCain and AJ Mitchell and these other players, you name them, like those guys have played so well. Like, you don't want to take something away from them when you don't know what you're getting out of Aaron Wiggins.
Yeah, it's certainly that is part of it. I mean, not only is Wiggins playing a little worse than he was last season, where he had a really, really hot end to the season. I mean, there's also nothing to be done about AJ Mitchell being, a starting caliber player that isn't even starting on this team. Same with Cason Wallace. I mean, it just goes down the list. And then you add Jared McCain, who there's a little bit of overlap between what they want to do. I mean, Jared McCain, can create his own shot and shoots it at a little bit higher clip and maybe isn't quite as big, but can do a lot of the same things with some of the negative trade-offs. So yeah, that's certainly part of it. This is just a different team than last season. Like, we talk about it all the time on here. Like, this is a theoretically better team, and that's not, a slight on Aaron Wiggins and his lack of production, but this team is just that good. Again, it is the best team in the league, and when you are the best team in the league and the deepest team in the league, you really have to assess and you really have to be specific with what lineups you want to throw out. And right now, that just includes a lot of lineups that don't have Aaron Wiggins in there. And again, it's not a knock on him. He is a rotational level player, probably at 28, 29 other spots, but the Thunder are just that elite and they're chasing a championship. And, his minutes might dwindle because of it.
Rylan, what about his future beyond this year in Oklahoma City? Does he become expendable? Is he somebody that Oklahoma City could look to move on from potentially and get something out of?
I mean, he's not someone who's a must-keep necessarily, but by the same token, he's still a really good player. And I do believe that this is going to swing back in his direction, especially next season. I mean, he might be running out of time for it to come around from this year, but moving forward, he's a player that I think will be back to his typical ways. And you look at his contract, this is why I don't think that he's necessarily expendable, because it's going to be so difficult to find a dance partner, so to say. While he's a really good player, his contract is descending. Next year, he makes $9.2 million. The next year, he makes $8.3 million. Then he has a team option for $8.3 million the following season. And that's such a cost-controlled contract that if you're looking to trade Wiggins, who are you going to get back that nets you that kind of value on that kind of a contract? As this team continues to get more expensive, you're going to need these rotational players to be on the cheap. And Wiggins is kind of an in-between player where, yes, he can go through lulls like this, but really this is his first extended lull as a below-average player. And it's because of the offense. And if there's one thing about Wiggins, his offense is his bread and butter, and he's going to get back to that offensive standpoint, from that standpoint, eventually. It might not be this year, but I think it'll be in the future, to where then it becomes really hard to justify trading Wiggins. You'd have to combine him with somebody and see where that gets you on the trade market, because I think that individually he could be worth a future pick. I think that teams will value Wiggins on the outside. Like to Derek's point, you're looking at this guy as a player who, for 29, 28 other teams, is firmly in their rotation. And for Oklahoma City, we're talking about how you got to really squint your eyes to tell if he's in this playoff rotation or not on any given night. That is a conundrum for Oklahoma City, but that contract on that descending value, already on a bargain scale contract, it's going to be hard to justify giving that control up and giving that money up, because the players who are making the $9 million and the $8 million a year, they're not anywhere close to Wiggins' value as a player. So then it puts you in a catch-22 of sorts.
So Derek, along those lines, the only way, based on what that Rylan's saying here, that he could be moved is if he requests to be moved. But if you're Aaron Wiggins, like, I would think, you got to be saying to yourself, hey, the grass isn't always greener. Like, if I can step my game up and earn more of those minutes, it's still highly unlikely he's going to find himself in a better situation. Maybe you request a trade and you go somewhere and you get more minutes, but likely you're going to be shipped out of the Western Conference and go to a team that's not nearly as good as Oklahoma City Thunder. I mean, if Aaron Wiggins, like, it's one of those things, you control what you can control. If he steps up, like, the Thunder are going to reward him.
It's just tough for me to look at so much history of Aaron Wiggins being good on this Thunder team, in this Thunder system. He was a homegrown, second round pick for this team. It's hard for me to even evaluate him elsewhere. Like, I do feel like he's just going to get back to it. Like Rylan and I have both said, this is just not who Aaron Wiggins is. Like, this is just a lull. Alex Caruso has talked about these. He's talked about, when the shots aren't going in, that could be a good thing, because eventually they're going to go in. So maybe this could be a thing where, Aaron Wiggins figures it out and it's kind of a snowball effect. We could even be looking at that right now. I mean, in his last several games, we've seen, 50% shooting, 75% shooting, 50% shooting. He had 17 points against the Nets. So he's going to break out of it. Like Rylan said, the timing is the more interesting part here, because if he were starting to trend up and this was midway through the season, then, this is a totally different conversation. But now that there's 6 games left in the regular season and there's just so many question marks and this team is so talented, it does make it a little tougher. So yeah, I think there's so much opportunity for Aaron Wiggins to get back into this Thunder rotation. Is it going to be in the next 2 months? Maybe not, but I think next year, as early as the beginning of next year, you're going to be looking at the exact same Aaron Wiggins that we've seen for the last handful of years.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. More to come on the Thunder Squad Show. Final segment ahead. We will talk about the Thunder's draft position. What picks are they going to have first off? And then from there, who are potential players that they could target? We'll break that down as we wrap up here on this Tuesday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. We wrap up here on this Tuesday edition of the Thunder Squad Show. Rylan Stiles, Tyler Jones, Derek Parker back here with you now. Guys, let's transition and talk about the draft situation. So before this show, I went on Tankathon to see how many tries it would take me to get the Thunder to have the 3 picks. And just for the record, took about 10 tries. With the Thunder getting the 9th pick from Utah in that situation. In fact, it was, to be exact, 9th, 15th, and 17th. So let's start there, Derek, just looking at the potential picks. 2 for sure. That Utah pick, highly unlikely at this point.
Super unlikely. Honestly, you can pretty much scratch it off. There's just no way that Utah is going to let this one slip through their fingers. They've done everything in their power to not have that happen, and rightfully so. You know, this is a team that needs their draft picks, so I mean, what are the odds here? 0.6 right now that the Thunder leave with that pick. Not great, but they've still got these other 2, Tyler, that you've alluded to, which is really good in their position.
Yes, certainly so. And, you know, with that, Rylan, I know that this isn't the sexiest thing in the world to be talking about the Thunder having 2 picks outside the lottery, but if there was ever a year to have multiple picks, and even if it be later, like this draft class is so loaded, like you're still going to find some quality players, even if you don't end up with that Utah pick.
Yeah, especially like you said to this draft class, whenever you're looking at the top 3, which feels solidified of AJ, DP, Boozer in some order, I think that Caleb Wilson should be a lock for 4. But even starting at 4, and especially once you get to 5, you can make the argument for Flemings, for Acuff, for Wagler. Like you can make the argument for a lot of guys to leap into that range, which pushes a lot of names down the board to where the value of a pick in the post lottery in the teens here is going to be better in this draft class than it is in most. And the Thunder can walk away with some good players that can also combine these picks and move up into the late lottery. They can also trade one of these picks or both of them into the future when they need more cost-controlled talent on a roster that continues to grow more expensive. They have a lot of options available, and that's a theme for this team on the court and off the court, to have a lot of options to what they want to do moving forward. And they can really let the draft board dictate what happens. Like if they can just sit there on draft night and see who's slipping in the lottery. Is there someone who leapfrogs some of these expected names in the 5, 6, 7 range, and now they're available at the 10, 11, 12 range where you could probably combine these picks and get up to? They can really make the decision on draft night and carry this all the way through. So I think that everything's on the table for Oklahoma City. Plus, of course, the play-in still has to play out to see how that lottery will solidify.
Let's talk about that play-in for a moment. So at this point in time, Philadelphia is the 7th seed in the East, and the Clippers are the 8th seed in the West at the moment. Derek, with this play-in tournament, we've seen some crazy stuff happen. I'm a fan of the play-in, by the way. I think it's been one of the best things we've seen in the NBA in recent memory. It makes that exciting for those last teams getting in. Do you see, Derek, Philadelphia and Los Angeles, the Clippers that is, potentially not getting out of the play-in, or maybe their seeding gets a little lower of sorts?
I, too, am a fan of the play-in. I'm anxiously awaiting all of these games because I think there's going to be some pretty good ones. With the Clippers, I do think they've probably been the best of the Western Conference bunch, and I also think they have one of the best players of the bunch in Kawhi Leonard, so I feel a little better about their chances of actually making it into the postseason. Philadelphia, A few weeks ago, Rylan and I talked about this. They were pretty up and down. They had seen some slow stretches. All three of their major guys were hurt. I didn't feel as great about their chances of making the postseason, but Rylan's Sixers, they beat my Hornets, and I think they proved in that game that when they play well and when all of their guys are on the court, they really can beat just about anybody. Are they going to go and win, a couple playoff series? No, but could they absolutely go beat a team like the Heat, the Magic, or even the White Hot Hornets, once, as they proved? I think so. So if I was a betting man, I would say that both of these teams will probably make the postseason in some capacity, but that's still not a massive hit to the Thunder, who, their pick will go down 1 spot, 2 spots, and the chances of it jumping from 14 to 1, like we saw last year, are super, super slim. So not a massive hit either way.
I wasn't aware that you guys had mediocre teams you rooted for in the Eastern Conference. Now I got to find one. Maybe I'll root for the Fighting Josh Giddeys in Chicago or something.
There's a lot of mediocre teams in the East. You've got your pick.
You can pick the whole conference except for like 2 teams, but Derek and I have a bet on the Sixers Hornets. So I right now we're in the lead. Keep rooting for the Sixers. The Sixers do play the Spurs, by the way, so even more reason to choose me over Derek and rooting for the Sixers.
Let's talk about the specific players now that we expect to be in that kind of 15 to 19 range of sorts. Rylan, lot of good players to choose from, and if you're Oklahoma City, with the way this roster's shaking out, your best bet is go best available with each pick, right?
Yeah, you've got to go best available, especially with how much is up in the air right now with this roster moving forward. I think that there's a few bells of the ball here for the Thunder that if Yaxel Linderberg was there, that'd be huge for this team. He's someone that I think fits like a glove for Oklahoma City. They even have the luxury of a guy like Bennett Sturts, who's kind of in that range that Derek loves. Who knows what will happen at the top of this draft class? Could you see a scenario where the talent is so rich and so deep that it pushes someone from what we expect to be the top down? Like what is going to be Braden Burry's range? A guy that Derek is madly in love with as a draft prospect for good reason. Like what's his range going to be to where maybe it's not all the way down to 15 or 16, but if it is down to like 11 or so, you can leap up there and get him and walk away with him. I mean, Malco Brown Jr. is another guy, the Louisville guard who was the talk of the town of the draft circles way back in non-con play, and now he's kind of in this draft range where he's kind of floating in the ether, where he's not quite a top pick, but he's also like too good to go at the end of the lottery. He's somewhere smack dab in the middle. Like they're going to be able to get a very talented player in this draft if they want to utilize these picks on top of trading up, trading back, and trading out. So I think that Yaxel, though, would be the player to watch for. If his age can scare off some teams who are not in a win now state, and he can get to Oklahoma City, that'd be a perfect pick for OKC.
Derek, Final Four this weekend in Indianapolis. I'll be there, flying in on Thursday. Hopefully we don't get delayed so I can still do this show on time, which never know with TSA these days. But, Derek, those 4 teams, 4 really good teams with UConn, Illinois, Michigan, and Arizona, and there's going to be some NBA talent. Anybody from those 4 teams we're going to see this weekend potentially stand out that have players that could fit this Oklahoma City team, do you?
Yeah, Tyler, you and I talked about how there was a little bit of a lack of Cinderella runs, but I think that has left, some really, really talented teams in this tournament. So Arizona, Michigan, I think this is probably the most talented game like in the entire country all season long.
I think that's the real championship game.
There's so many NBA draft prospects and there's so many good college players in this game. I think Michigan, the reason I picked them, they have 3 NBA level front court guys right now in Yaxel Linderberg, who we just touched on, Marez Johnson Jr., one of my favorite prospects, and then Adai Mara. And then Arizona, again, Braden Burry's also one of my favorites. They've also got Mo Krivas and Koa Pete, and Karchinkov could be a 27 guy. So that game's absolutely loaded. If you're a basketball fan at all, much less a fan of, potentially knowing who the Thunder are going to draft, that is a must watch. And then on the other side, Illinois, they've got Keaton Wagler. He's a guy who has potentially worked himself all the way up to being the 5th pick. And this was a guy that came in, he was a 4-star, not really on draft radars at all, and he has just seen a gargantuan season. He's been unbelievable. So he might be out of the Thunder's range, but stellar prospect to watch. And then UConn's got a couple of guys as well. In Braylon Mullins, he had the hero shot versus Duke, and Alex Caravan, who very underrated pass on that shot. So
yes,
a couple of interesting bouts.
Yeah, certainly, certainly so. When it comes to these picks, we mentioned that the Thunder have a history of trading back or using picks later on down the line. Um, do you see there being any potential opportunities, Rylan, of maybe the Thunder packaging some picks and moving up? Is there anybody that jumps off the radar where Oklahoma City could say to themselves like, yeah, we really want that guy. We're going to move up to go get him.
Yeah, I think that when you look at it, it would be about the intel, which we haven't gotten yet. But I do think that Yaxel's a player who you could justify moving up for. Yaxel being one of them. The other guys, I don't know that you could justify moving up for in this class in the sense of a moderate jump. Now, obviously, it's outlandish to think you can jump into the top three. I mean, the Thunder could offer every pick that they have, and they're not going to get one of these top three players away from the bottom of this tankathon race, and in the sense of the AJs and DPs and boozers. But I think that Yaxel as a slight move up candidate would be good. I really do like Breeze, as I was giving Derek a little bit of nudging there. I do agree he'd be a great Braden would be a great pick for Oklahoma City. That'd take a substantial move up to like the top 10 range, but it is doable, especially if you consider who could land up there in the top 10 in his range. Like if they would value just a full reset of wanting these bevy of draft picks and shots at this talented draft class versus the one guy who's not exactly a franchise changer, but is still a good player. Like that's where they can try to make some hay here in a trade up market. But ultimately, this draft class is so good and there's so much talent that's going to get pushed down. Like we haven't even talked about a shot in the dark and a guy like Jaden Quaidens, who I think would be right up the Thunder's alley to take a shot on. Koa Pete used to be the guy that we always talked about for the Thunder. He's going to be down there below where the Thunder are projected to pick. So Dalen Swain is a guy that I think is fantastic and would be a great Thunder pick that they wouldn't have to move to go get. So I think that the most likely case scenario is they stay put, and if not staying put outright, they make one selection, whether it be at 15, and then trade their other selection into the future, and they walk away with a very good player.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, we want to thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Thunder podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow the Locked On Thunder podcast so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get the Locked On Thunder podcast ad-free, plus members-only Discord access. All you had to do is head over to lockedonthunder.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA. We got a little bit of time left. I got to say, the Thunder have done a really good job as well when it comes to these, later picks, the second round and such. And, AJ Mitchell is the first one that comes to mind. But I got to take a moment, Derek, to shout out what I saw from Price Sanford last week in Nebraska. Had a really good year. Obviously played for his brother at Iowa, who's now with the Thunder. And he's, I think most people projecting him to be about a second-round guy. He went off in that game against Iowa on Thursday night, even though they lost. And we were talking amongst ourselves offline a couple of days ago. He might be the better of the Sanford brothers. Like, he's a guy that, you take a flyer on potentially later on, throw him in the G League system. You know what? Why not?
Yeah, you talk about late picks, late first and early seconds. There's cases to be made that those picks and hitting on those picks are just as valuable as getting your talent in the lottery and higher, because of the way that the contracts shake out and the way that, just the rotations go. And guys like Price Sanford, if you hit on them and he ends up being, the level of 3-point shooter that he is in college at the pro level, and he's a rotational guy that can, raise the floor with connective playmaking and do all these things, that's super, super valuable. He is an unbelievable 3-point shooter. He has so much gravity. And when you throw that in an NBA system, such as the Thunder, where Shai's already got gravity and AJ Mitchell and Jalen Williams and all these guys, it makes for a pretty potent combination more than not. So I agree. I think Price is a phenomenal player. I would bet he does get drafted in the second round. And yeah, I could envision a decent NBA career.
Yeah, maybe so. Rylan, before we go, what is ahead on the Locked On Thunder podcast over the next few days?
Plenty of stuff coming up, especially with these 2 off days. We got Justin Martinez on the show tomorrow from the Oklahoman. Also, we're going to have a lot of bonus videos out there, like the Thunder needing to embrace the villain role, SGA's MVP case, and him not advocating for the award, but Wemby doing so. What's the proper way to go about it? And this race for the 1 seed, the Thunder needing to win out to get the top spot in the West. We'll have plenty of stuff here, plus recapping every single game, plus our squad shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So subscribe anywhere you get your shows from.
Looking forward to it. That about does it for us. We'll be back here to do it all again on Thursday, 3:30 Central Time. We'll see you then. For Derek Parker and Rylan Stiles, I'm Tyler Jones saying so long. Thanks for joining us here on the Thunder Squad Show.